Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are here to talk about the future of ultrasound in GE Healthcare, but there's more to it. So I have invited Brian McKeithron, who runs our general imaging business unit at GE Healthcare in ultrasound. And hey, Brian, you are in your office, right?
I am. Unfortunately, I'm not at RSNA this year. I'm being safe in my office in Milwaukee. How about you, Anders?
Yeah, well, I'm in Norway. I used to be at the RSNA these days, so it's a different story. But anyway, I hope this opportunity gives a chance to chat a little bit about the future of ultrasound, which, as always, very exciting. We've both been in this industry for a long time, and not as long as, say, ultrasound have been around, because people discovered sound techniques and echolocation 200 years ago when they thought about the bats and the whales and all of that. So medical diagnostic ultrasound came about maybe around the 50s, and we've been working on it, not that long after that. So I just refreshing some of the history here. I'm thinking of color flow imaging from grayscale going to Doppler, strain imaging, elastography is near and dear to you, I know, in radiology, and then we have 3D imaging, and not to mention real-time imaging, 4D. So there's a ton of innovation in this space, which has made ultrasound very powerful as a diagnostic tool. And it's the mobility is another one. And just think about an analogy could be the cell phone business or cell phone industry itself. Think about the way back then when it was all wired up. You had to wait for the other person to speak. It was really a different story way back then. Today, we have smart devices, smartphones, and all connected with applications and so forth. GPSs, we share pictures and what have you. In many ways, ultrasound has followed the same journey, and it's been exciting. Where we now have the 300-pound ultrasound system down to half a pound in your pocket. So I think this is super exciting, and there is more to come. And I'm sure you have a lot of insight to that, Brian, running that GI business. So if you don't mind, give us a little bit insight. It's RSNA time. People are excited to know what's new coming up. So I really like you to talk a little bit about what's coming up here at RSNA.
You know, we really work in a fantastic industry, Anders. The way that through the years, it never really matures, but some new capability or technology comes along that expands its utility even further to more people and provides more clinical information. And as I think over the trajectory over the last 30, 40 years, we went from looking at anatomy with one-dimensional and two-dimensional, then three-dimensional imaging, and then we started to look at flow. And so we looked at, Doppler and then color flow and things like B-flow, and that kept expanding. And then the real next step that I'm seeing here is emergence to look beyond just anatomy and beyond just flow, but now what is the underlying pathology inside the body? And so about 4 years and 5 years ago, I saw something emerge in terms of the world of elastography, the way you can measure essentially the stiffness of something like a tumor. And that whole thread of pathology is now starting to emerge. And now recently we came out with something called UGAP, and looking at the attenuation of the liver, and together with shear wave elastography, you can characterize the liver in a different way. And that's really, really important because with obesity around the world, the liver fat is causing some major health problems in the world right now. And the gold standard to understand that is they take a big needle and they give you a liver biopsy. And that's not a good thing to do. And so if ultrasound can provide that same information to a clinician and reduce the number of biopsies and be able to help people with liver disease like NAF-FLD and these things, it's going to be a great new world. And one of the technologies that has come along recently to allow that comes from the computer and gaming industry. And that is called GPUs. And they're kind of the next generation of a supercomputer processor that really have changed the game in what we can do now with ultrasound. In fact, it's so much changed that we had to somewhat rewrite the physics of ultrasound a little bit, because now, instead of just seeing things at really good spot at the focal zone, we can see every single pixel in focus. And not only can we see it in focus, we can see it faster. And with things like U-gap and shear wave. And so these GPUs have really transformed the industry. And the next thing it allows us to do was develop a product that's been hyper-connected. Just like you mentioned, the cell phone expanded in around 2009-10 with connecting and be the end-all and be-all of everything that you can't live without. Ultrasound's going through that same transformation now with connectivity. And so now you can do things like artificial intelligence. You can remotely look at the machine. You can virtually scan remotely. You can educate the customer remotely. You can service the machine remotely. You can understand all the analytics about how that machine operates within a clinic or a hospital, how much it's utilized, where it's located, how many probes have you used, on and on and on. And then we take it from that to allowing it to do something like artificial intelligence and things like improving workflow or diagnostic confidence in areas like breast cancer or thyroid cancer. These are all capabilities we have right now today and we'll be showing. But you can imagine this whole world of hyperconnectedness, artificial intelligence is going to continue to bloom and grow in ultrasound and bring new capabilities that we've never seen before in ultrasound. So that's what's so exciting about the world of where ultrasound is going for me.
Yeah, no, Brian, I can't agree more. This is exciting. I think we could go on for hours here with this conversation. There's more to it. But there's one reality I think we are painfully aware of. It's a different situation than we had many years ago. There's a ton of, say, budget constraints, number one. Then we have the COVID situation. There's a massive inflow of patients these days. At the same time, there's a high demand for productivity, efficiency. So we want to align everything we do today beyond new technologies and new solutions all the time to make certain we have working, make you work intelligently efficient. That's our theme today. At the same time, we want to look at the future. So these things are definitely the new paradigm for how GE Healthcare is working. And you have the opportunity here in our virtual RSNA booth to go and take a look at all these demos and see how that really aligns to that opportunity going forward. So that's where it is. So thanks for listening, and please enjoy our virtual booth.
Take care, everyone.